Well, a lot of you guys have been asking for it, and yesterday I was in a demolition derby. Not overly impressed with this car. It was a 9.9 out of 10. I seen almost zero rust on this car. The underside, it was perfect. Everything on this car was immaculate. And the derby I went to was a very, very stock show. Overall, the body of the car on the back, it came in really quick, but it came in kind of nice. I did cut the frame rail off over here. As you can see, I just kind of sawzalled that off because the track got very muddy in the feature, and that was kind of hanging down. So I didn't really want to risk that getting caught in the mud and it kind of holding me up. So I did cut that off before going in, but I was actually very, very disappointed with how fast the back of this car came in. It came in, I think, in like 4 hits, and I was thinking to myself, that's ridiculous. The back of this car should have held up a lot better than what it did. The whole floor kind of caved on itself. The rear end started coming up, like it bent down there. Not overly happy with how it bent, but the part that kind of depressed me the most was the front of it. So the rules are at this show, the factory year, make, model bumper must stay on the car. So I had to run the very, very bad 92 to 96 bumper. I didn't even use it during the hit. One guy came and hit me in the front, and it ripped the bumper, broke all the bolts off that hold the bumper, instantly pulled my frame in. Like, look at the kinks in the frame here. It wasn't even that big a hit. It even bent the subframe down here. So after one hit in the front, this car was so bent, it's not worth saving. You know what, this car here was a 9.9 out of 10 for rust. Like, this car here was really good. Kind of disappointed with how bad it went, how quick it went. And this is my 3rd time running a V6. I've ran a V6 in the derby once, and I blew it up. It was an Avalon. And then I ran another V6 in an off-road race, and I blew that up. And now I ran this one in a demolition derby, and I blew this one up. After the heat, the radiator was pretty much garbage, so I did the old loop trick where I took a 24 mil socket, deep socket, put it in there, put some gear clamps. And some of you guys say that doesn't work, but I'm telling you right now, that held together perfectly. The hose said no more. So I did loop it. In the feature, I went in as a looped V6, and there was a 4-cylinder that went in dry blocking. We ended up coming first, second as 1-2, and he dry blocked the entire time and ran longer than a looped V6. So I'm still not a big fan of these V6s. I built the harness here, so this was a standalone harness. I did have the temp sensor bypassed right here. So I did try to make it run when it was hot, but it kind of really hates its life right now. It completely heat seized in the heat. I ended up being able to start it a couple times, but you could tell it was done. I wasn't even revving it that hard. It was a very dry track, sorry, a very wet track, so I was trying to keep my RPMs down, especially when I seen the rad hose blow. I knew I had to keep the RPMs down to try to keep the motor alive just that much longer. But unfortunately, she died. She died unheroically and caused me first place. I ended up getting second place. I'm not complaining. I'm happy with the trophy. I really expected more out of this V6. The bumper falling off kind of sucked, but I actually think that 9-wire is better than any bumper that I could have put on it at the derby, because I can't weld the bumpers on. The rule is you cannot weld your bumper on at all. So, I was told that the stock rules were supposed to make it so that Toyota Camrys were not as dominant. And I will admit, these bone stock rules is a waste of a Toyota Camry. This car If it had had a square tubing bumper with a little bit of plate and shorten it up, would have done much, much better, but I can't do that. A lot of things here in Ontario are going to more stock. But saying that, taking these rules back to stock is making Toyotas a lot less dominant, but there was 4 Camrys at that show. There was a 97, 98, my 96, a 2000 Avalon, and I'm going to say it was like a 90, 98, 97 Lexus ES 300. And those were your top 4 cars out of, I think, 21 cars or 20 cars. The top 4 were all Toyota Camrys. So even though it makes some junk after one run, they're still a very dominant car. Now, if there was a Corolla there, because of how muddy it got, I think the Corolla would have done really well. But we'll have to see. There was no PT Cruiser, so I was kind of hoping to see a PT Cruiser in stock form. But there was none. In the heat, top 4 moved on to feature, but I wanted that trophy. There was a green Sebring out there, and you know what? It was very tough. I had it came down to him and all the other guys stuck up fingers for 2, 3, and 4. And then I had a great passenger side axle shot, and I didn't see him put up. I thought I seen him put up fingers, so I stopped and turned away from the shot. And then turned out he just still wanted to play, so he actually broke his actual lower control arm. His cast lower control arm broke. But those cars were pretty tough. I went back to back with it once, and I said, that's enough of that, not doing that again. But overall, Camry did what a Camry should do, which is try and win, but kind of disappointed with how fast this thing came in. Some threaded rod in the back, a back window bar would have made a big difference back here, and in the front, a good bumper, even like a better rebar bumper would have done better. Even a bumper that I could have welded on. I bet you if I could have fully welded on the stock bumper, it would have maybe done better, but I don't know. It's kind of a shame. Got to tear it apart now. A buddy wants the transmission. I got to get the rear sub out of this one so I can put it into the car that I drive every day, because the sub's completely rotted out of that. Cage is just going to stay because this is just a crappy little cage. Gas tank, battery, shifter's going to stay, fuse panel's going to come out, front window bar, roof sign. It's honestly a 2-hour strip. The longest part's going to be getting the transmission out. I'm going to leave that just in case the fact that maybe he'll change his mind and doesn't want it. Hopefully he changes his mind. But yeah, we're going to tear this thing down, get it ready for scrap. And just kind of a shame on this car. I know I shouldn't be upset, but with how clean it is, I was kind of hoping for a little bit better than this. I think Corollas are better for bone stock shows than Camrys, just because on a small muddy track, the Corollas, they take the abuse. They in the back end, yes, the floor bends out of them, but the Corollas are a one-run car. These guys here can run 2-3 runs. Like if this motor didn't blow up, I'd probably run this at another bone stock show. But the problem is that I'm not going to put another motor into it because it's not worth it. But I don't know. I think Corollas are better for bone stock. Like 100% bone stock bumpers, windshield class, gas tank class, whatever you guys call it. I think Corollas are better than Camrys. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. I got to tear this thing apart now. So, see you guys back here later on Zach's Workshop.